Good evening, viewers of the District Focus. We are privileged to thank you for always tuning in to the District Focus channel. This afternoon, we are bringing you the President General of Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, and he's here to discuss with us and share with you the different dynamics that are in the education sector. Good evening. You are welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening, viewers. I'm Kagani Zomite Sasra, Evans, President General, Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, and I'm happy to be with you and to share with you on this important channel, the District Focus.
We want to know the genesis of Uganda Liberal Teachers Union.
Yeah, thank you so much. Uganda Liberal Teachers Union is a union or an organization of teachers as workers who form a union. That means coming together to share experiences, share aspirations, but above all to champion the interests of the members who are teachers. And these are teachers right from nursery school teachers, primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, and teachers in post-secondary institutions, including lecturers in universities. And we also have membership, draw membership for teachers who teach in public schools or government-owned schools or entities, but also teachers from the private sector, those who teach in schools that are owned by individuals, not by government.
Thank you. You are talking about the interests of the teachers. What are they? Do you also put in consideration the interest of the government? Do these teachers do the teachers you fight for take into in consideration the interests, the scores, the qualities the government is looking upon among those teachers?
Yeah, of course, since government is the biggest employer of teachers, there is a greater relationship between government policy and the situation or the conditions where the teachers work, because the majority of the teachers in Uganda are employed by government. And now, as teachers, of course, we look at how does this relationship translate into the benefits that teachers look for when they go out to work. Of course, as I mentioned, the history of teacher organizations or trade unions is a bit older now in Uganda, and it started way back, I think, when there was the Uganda Teachers Association, what we used to call UTA. Now then there came the Uganda National Teachers Union, they called UNATU. But now for us, we emerged out of that and then formed Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. The biggest concern is to have what we call effective representation. There is a challenge amongst workers that when workers come together, their greatest concern is, can I also be felt? Can I also speak and my employer listen? Can I get the best out of my labor, out of my sweat? And that one can best be done through a trade union. In the other working environment, as you are saying, the channel is such streamlined in such a way that it is a one-way channel whereby the orders and the instructions come from the managers, and then the teachers are on the receivership, on the receiver end. Now for them they offer work, then others bring instructions and policies. Now when you talk about government, it means that in most cases government, being an employer, is also directed by or driven by the desire to have the best out of labor. That means in most cases government would want to get benefits, want to get results from the teachers, but not necessarily making the same input they are supposed to do, so the teachers are also benefiting from their suite. So in most cases, you find that some of the policies which government put across may not necessarily be beneficial to the teachers, but of course government would look at what they want to benefit as an employer. So that's the kind of relationship where unions must come in, and for us as Uganda Liberal Teachers come in. And our sole responsibility in this, in the modern sense, is to put up what we call social dialogue. What do we mean by social dialogue? It means there must be an interaction between the employer and the employees, and these are the teachers, so that there is a channel, a communication channel, through which the worker, the teacher, can come up and articulate his interests without fear of harassment, without fear of reprisals, without fear of losing a job, without fear of being victimized. So that's the channel which we are trying to bring about in Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. Can we talk? Do we have the ideas? Can we allow ideas to go through? And that one goes through what we call the negotiation process, what we call collective bargaining. So that's the kind of relationship we look at. But as you may understand, it's not always straight, it's not always easy, it's not always actually possible for these workers, because we don't have capital. Your only source of energy, your source of power is your labor. And labor is paid according to the choice of the one who is employing you. So now we need to build that muscle by coming together as teachers in those sections I have just mentioned. So when you come together, and when the employer realizes that you are one unit, and we have what we call working in solidarity, means that if you agree on something, then as a workers team, you move together. And we have a saying that solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. So that means when we work in solidarity and we are together, then we build the strength which can now project us into a better interaction between the strong employer who has capital, who has the government machinery, but also now when he realizes that you are organizing and you have one common voice, he will listen to you, and we shall bridge that gap of the employer-employee relationship through our union.
Thank you very much. We are talking about now, you as unions that are helping the associations, the teachers together. Do you have some parameters in terms of quality? What are the qualities of a good teacher? Yes, we know government probably has delivered much, although not yet satisfactory. But what do you want to tell us? What can you tell us of a good teacher whom you're fighting for? Should it be this teacher who goes to class and is carries on absenteeism? Should he be a teacher who knows his time, who teaches students or children to pass? Should he be a teacher? You know, what are the parameters that you consider that before these members, what should they present? Because you might be fighting for people who are not bringing good food on the table.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, one of the most important things in trade unions, when we call them trade unions, means that we are selling. It is a kind of system of give and take. It's a trade because the employer is giving you his capital, is paying you, you are getting salaries and wages, and for you are giving labor. So if you are going to go through a good market system, it means you have to offer the best quality of labor that the employer needs. And I think that's another role that unions are supposed to play, to ensure that the workers they represent, in this case our teachers, like Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, these teachers have to be teachers of quality. And how can we bring it? How can we bring about that one? First of all, when we come together, we realize our strength. But we go through a number of processes through which we improve the quality of the services that we deliver. Now, you might find that the teachers are not up to the standard in various categories because of training and because of the environment and circumstances under which we work. But now, what we do as a union is that we also improve on that quality, and that one can be done through training, constant training. It's what we call in-service training, but we also have union training, where we train leaders, where we train our membership. And this training also brings about the quality. It can be also organizing programs like upgrading. You can organize workshops and seminars. And when you organize this, the teachers come together and learn from one another. But now the question is, are they teachers of quality? Because quality comes from the institution where these teachers have been groomed, where they have been trained. Secondly, the environment under which the teachers work. If you have a school environment which does not consider about professional development of the employees, then you may not get the quality of the teachers that you need. But also the most important thing as a union we look at is the aspect of motivation. If a teacher is motivated at all levels, you almost get out a very good quality teacher. And as a union, we look at what we call motivation. But also, in terms of professional standards, as a union, we also ensure that we inculcate the values, those strong aspects of an individual, of a professional, so that if you see what I'm doing or my colleague is doing this, and somebody in the union has seen that one, then you can advise so that you bring out the quality. Because when individuals are left alone, at times they degenerate. So as a union, in Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, we also advocate for the quality of the workers. But we also condemn some of those practices where you find that teachers absent themselves, for example, where you find that teachers misbehave, for example, they develop some bad relationships between themselves and their learners, at times pupils and students. We condemn that. Then, of course, the quality of the services, the quality of teaching that we deliver. For example, now, in Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, we are developing a concept where we want to say that there should be an aspect where there is practicability of whatever we teach. Are we teaching skills? So we want to move that extra mile and say that in the teaching learning process, there must be teaching of skills, and these skills can help our children to be productive, but also we ourselves as teachers, are we productive enough? So that when we are teaching, we can also teach those values which we hold as important. And I think we are building towards that. And if we can reach a level where every level of education you go to, you are learning a skill. Every child will love education. Every parent will love education. Every teacher will love to teach. And of course, government will put in more resources into education, and that will translate into development of the nation.
Thank you very much, Bwana Kaganizi. And briefly, if you could highlight to us, to our viewers, the mandate of these unions.
Yeah, I think as a union we have a greater mandate, because one of it is to represent. Then if we represent, we also have to bargain. And when we negotiate for the salaries of our workers, we're supposed to sit down with every employer, both in government and in private, as our mandate is. Because for us as a union, we are registered to advocate for teachers both in government and in private institutions. So we have to look at the salary package. Is the salary commensurate with the work that the teacher is giving? If the teacher is giving you 7 days a week and is supposed to be at school, let's say at 8 and leaves at 5, some have to do prep and so on and so forth, depending on the environment in the school. So we have to look at say what is the salary that the teacher is getting. For example, now, as a union, Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, we are concerned about what government has now done, and we are not happy with that. We are dissatisfied with that approach of selective enhancement of salaries for the teachers. Because for us, we don't employ, but we are supposed to act as watchdog to the person who is employing us. That is the role of the union, and it's also our mandate. So we would like to say that if you are looking at a pay, one of the basic qualities of a good pay is that it must cover the basic needs of the employer. So a good pay should actually be a living wage. But in Uganda, we have not reached that level of paying a living wage to our workers, both at government and private level. But a living wage would mean that if you are going to pay a brother, let's say somebody, Brother Abel, you must know that he's supposed to take children to school, they're supposed to go and study, he's supposed to go for medication, he's supposed to eat, he's supposed to be housed, he's supposed to move, he's also supposed to have leisure to go a time out with friends and colleagues and recreate. That's what recreation. So if you are going to pay such a person a salary, you should have to put those things into consideration. But in Uganda, we haven't reached that level. We are paid what we call a token. To say, I have this, take it or leave it. So it's not that it is supposed to be meeting your basic requirements. So we call that one a living wage, where all these basic requirements are taken into consideration and then salary or wage is paid. So part of our mandate also is to develop the interests of our members. And as I mentioned for you, our mandate goes to teachers in government, teachers in nursery schools, teachers in secondary schools. We don't have that discrimination of saying that these are science teachers, these are arts teachers. But of course now as a union, we are coming in very strongly to advocate for our teachers in humanities, teachers in primary schools, teachers in nursery schools, because some other categories like the science teachers at secondary level and above, they have formed their union, so we don't go into their affairs. Those ones we leave alone, but we now concentrate on those who are ready to remain with us. But also importantly, in our union, we have teachers of science who have chosen to belong to our union, because the constitution stipulates that every worker has the right to choose the union of his or her choice. So if I'm in liberal teachers and I find that I'm not happy, I can switch to another one. So if I'm comfortable where I am, then I can stay there. You cannot come and pull me that you say this union is calling for this, but as long as my interests are there and that union has the mandate to champion those interests, then I can stay there. So that's the kind of the mandate we have. Bargaining. Then we look at the conditions of service. How are our teachers living? Do they have teachers' houses in schools? In upcountry, you go to districts. I've been to one of these districts, like in Tororo. I visited some of the schools. Find that some teachers are miserable. There's not even lunch at school, and people are happy. They seem to be happy, but they are not. So we look at those conditions. Under which does a teacher work? Because if those conditions are not fulfilled, much as you push them, you try to squeeze work out of them, you are not getting the best out of them. That's why example has shown that in schools where the welfare of the teacher is taken as priority number one, we always have good performance in those schools. Of course, for us as liberal teachers, we don't say that academic excellence is good performance. For us, good performance, we look at it from an all-round development of the child, of the learner, and how that learner and child can relate to the community. Because we shall discuss that one, but we have a challenge that our education is over there is a lot of theory, theorized, I think, so that people train academics and so on, and you find that the rest of the other abilities are not trained. And we are coming up to say that let us train an all-round child. Let us make our education practical in terms of developing of skills for the person, for the family, for the community, and for the nation.